What's your number one job when you have a baby? It's to keep them alive, isn't it? And the way we do that is by feeding them. That is really our number one job, is to keep this baby fed. Whether it's breastfed or bottle fed, it doesn't really matter. It's our job to keep a child fed, right? And so what happens then when we spend a whole year feeding our babies liquid, right, either in breast or formula or bottle, then around the 12th month mark, it's hard for us to make a shift. So I want to talk a little bit today about moving your child off of bottles. Now, again, liquids have been your baby's number one primary source of calories for a long time now. And it's hard for us as adults to now switch that around and make calories coming from food source the primary and liquids become secondary. The liquid becomes the beverage. And I'll tell you, and I've been there myself, so I get it, but I can tell you that so many parents are hanging on to bottles much longer than they need to be. And they're doing that for a couple of reasons. One, they're worried that their child's not eating enough. Right? So they're giving, 8 ounces 3 or 4 times a day in bottle form because their child's not eating solids well. Or they feel like, I really need to fill this little tummy up with lots of milk right before bed because that child's having sleep challenges. Or the third scenario is that your child won't drink milk in a cup or a sippy cup. So you're hanging on to this bottle because you're worried that she'll never drink any more milk ever again. So I'm going to give you a few ways to get out of those 3 scenarios. The first one, good news. The minute you cut the calories that are coming from milk, the more your child's going to eat. And again, this is going to take a day or 2 for you to kind of convince yourself of this, but you really need to monitor calorie consumption that's coming in via fluid. So toddlers are really good at regulating their calorie needs, and they need roughly, every child's a bit different, but on average around 1,100 calories a day. So if they're taking in 600 calories via milk in 8-ounce bottles, they don't really need to eat that much. To make up 600 calories, that's not a lot of food. So it's going to feel like they're not eating enough. But as soon as you cut those calories coming from liquid, their body will say, hey, we need to make up for some lost calorie here, and they'll start eating more solids. And that's what you want at this point. You need them to start doing that. All right, so that's good news for the first scenario. So the second scenario is if you've got a toddler who's not sleeping so well, it has nothing to do with food, right? It's all about prop association. So if your baby is falling asleep with a bottle, waking up in the night, it's the bottle that's the problem. The bottle is the sleep prop. So every time your child falls asleep, they think, I need to have a bottle in my mouth. That's how I do this. The good news is that you can teach them how to fall asleep without bottles in their mouth, and then they're going to become really great sleepers and get off the bottle. So it's a double win there. If you need some help with that, check out the Sleep Sense program. I've got a great strategy in there for breaking the association between bottles and sleep. The third is that your child won't take milk and anything else, so that's why you're hanging on to your life to this bottle. And here's some more good news. They will once the bottles disappear, okay? They'll come around. They may go on a little bit of a milk strike for a few days where they're kind of making their point that they really like the bottle better than the sippy, but then they'll eventually come back to it. They certainly will not consume as much at one sitting. It's much more difficult to drink an entire 8-ounce glass of milk as it is to slowly and happily suck on a bottle. So they might not have as much, but they don't need as much, and that's something you have to keep in mind too. They only need anywhere from 8 to 16 ounces. So 8 ounces is not much. You could give 2 ounces at breakfast, 2 ounces at lunch, and 2 ounces at bed. or in your dinner hour, and that's going to be fine. A lot of people would say that children probably shouldn't even be drinking milk in the first place. You could find a lot of people who would support that theory. So just to ease off, take the pressure off yourself a little bit. It's not the end of the world. They will come back to it and not in as much quantity. One little tip before I say goodbye though, is if you have a child who's really resisting the sippy cup, just move into a normal cup with a straw. A plastic cup, let's be safe, in case they throw that. But a lot of kids really get a kick out of using a straw. There's a bit of novelty there. And the motion is similar to sucking on a bottle, so they kind of get it. It makes more sense to them than actually taking a cup and bringing it to your mouth. That's a little harder. So that might help with the transition. But just keep in mind, after the first birthday, food is the calorie source. Liquids are a beverage. Thanks so much for watching. Sleep well.